Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and today I want to give you a little bit of background into how we are using the electronic flight bag in real life operations and what a proper electronic flight bag needs to be able to do. Now, in Microsoft Flight Simulator there are quite some EFBs out there, and some of them are better, some of them are worse, but there is only one that I would really call an electronic flight bag. All the rest of them is lacking vital functionality that we're using on a day-to-day basis, if it has such functionality at all. There are lots of comments under my videos, especially the PMDG ones for an obvious reason, saying that, oh, everybody has an EFB, why don't you? Well, again, I'm not employed by PMDG, I'm only a voluntary advisor, so obviously the why don't you part is a little bit of nonsense, but let's go ahead and talk about what a real electronic flight bag has and what it needs to be able to do. So, we are generally starting in the morning by updating all the apps and making sure that everything you have is ready for use. And obviously that is a little bit less of an issue for you guys in flight simulation, so let's go ahead into what we do when we get to the aircraft. Well, or to the crew room. Most airlines you do it in the crew room. In my former airline we did it on the aircraft, since we met directly over there. So, basically you would start in an app that we used to call the Electronic Flight Log, EFL, and the Phoenix app over here is basically doing quite similar things. So, let's have a look into the Phoenix app. And basically, starting on the My Flight log, you would update or download your route data. For example, today we've got a flight from Munich to Düsseldorf. We've got the flight number, we got the schedules and stuff like that. From there on, we can also check our mass and balance information, which is quite important prior to the flight to make sure that you are within the takeoff and landing limits before you start actually loading up the airplane. So that is basically what we would do in the preparation for the flight at first. From there on, you go ahead and review the flight plan, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. But the important thing over here is that we can already download the flight plan, have a look at the weather, have a look at the NOTAMs and stuff like that. So from there on, you would usually do your performance, you would usually start setting up and use your Pilot Brief app in order to program the flight plan into your computer and stuff like that. Something that I have not seen in any flight simulator EFB yet, which however concludes vital information, or rather a vital task in real life, is documentation. So in all of these things, or rather in many of them, certainly not in all, we are able to view the flight plan, but in, well, none of them that I would be familiar with right now, you're actually able to properly edit the flight plan. So most real airlines, they have this version of the OFP, as you can see it over here, but only as a paper backup. So you have a PDF somewhere on your EFB that includes the flight plan like this, but what airlines would normally do is they would have an app available on the EFB, which basically also shows you all this kind of data, but it is more of an app where you fill your flight plan out. So you not only get the information, but you also fill in, for example, exactly how much fuel you loaded, the off-block times, the fuel tracks en route, and stuff like that. So that's something that I am still missing in any flight simulation at the moment. Because, well, the Phoenix gets closest to the real-life EFBs, but is not 100% there yet either. I do know that SimBrief offers this kind of data in the API, so it would be possible for developers to build such an app, and I can really only encourage every developer to do that and to start building up something like that. Alright, let's go on then. Once you are done with your pre-flight and once the boarding is complete, eventually your load sheet will arrive, which once again the Mass and Balance app in the Phoenix is very good for, because over here you get all the load sheet information and you have stuff like your zero fuel weight, your gross weight, the center of gravity, and stuff like that. So then you would go ahead and use that information in the takeoff performance calculator in order to fill everything out over here. And once that is completed, you would also fill out the arrival performance with the expected landing data, so that you can calculate if you can even legally land at your destination with the payload that you actually have on board your airplane. If not, you might have to, well, unload some cargo, offload some passengers, whatever it is that gets you inside the landing minima for your destination airport. So that's quite important as well. However, with the takeoff data calculated, you are basically done and you're changing back over to the flight planner in order to record all the times. Obviously, in the meantime, you would be using your charts as required in order to brief, in order to follow along your taxi route, etc. So from there you go on and fill out everything in flight, fill out your fuel checks, basically one every 30 minutes, which can be extended up to one every 60 minutes, but it must not be anything longer than that. Do note, some airlines are using an abbreviated format where not every waypoint is shown. For example, we see it over here in the Lufthansa layout, where we don't see every single waypoint in here. Some airlines have more information, some have less. In any case, you would go ahead and use your company's information as required. Prior to the landing, obviously, you're using your charts once again in order to set up for your arrival, to plan for your landing. You would also use the arrival performance calculator in order to set up for your landing. Now, once everything is done, once you have reached your destination gate, you would then once again use the flight plan app, fill out the arrival information, the fuel remaining and stuff like that, and then you would send all of that to your airline company. Alright, so that is the basic usage of an EFB in normal day-to-day operations. Now, obviously, there is some more stuff which we regularly use our electronic flight bags for. One of them, which Phoenix also has featured over here, is the delay allocation card. Now, that can be present in several different forms on the different airlines' electronic flight bags. For example, my former airline used a PDF version of the IATA delay codes that was adapted for our use. And any delay you would have to explain in, well, in my former airline, in an app. In other airlines, you have that stuff in the ATSU, in the ACAS system. But in either case, you would have to provide feedback to the airline for possible delays that you encounter. The final thing here, which an EFB needs to have, is documentation. So obviously, we have all our aircraft manuals on there. We have the quick reference handbook. On the 737, we also had a printed version of it. On some other airlines, I know you don't need to carry one, but in the 737 we did. So you would have all that stuff that Phoenix basically has down here. Normal checklist, well, we used the paper copy, and I know many airlines still do. And then you would have your product manuals. Now, again, the Phoenix manual, just like, well, pretty much any manual I've seen in Microsoft Flight Simulator, quite a bit incomplete here. However, nonetheless, it has the most important EFB data on here at least, so that's something, well, that's something to kind of get started with. However, let's quickly talk about the 4 most important aspects of an electronic flight bag then. We have flight information, which you have split in the Phoenix and the Pilot Brief app. Then we have documentation, so manuals, etc. Then obviously you need to have charts on board the EFB, and you need to have your performance calculators. So those 4 parts, flight information, documentation, charts, and performance, make an electronic flight bag. That is what you need to have inside an electronic flight bag in order to be able to even call the device like one. So for that very reason, at the moment, Phoenix is the only developer providing you with an accurate and complete electronic flight bag. No other developer at the moment has one available. The Mad Dog gets closest on place number 2, but they don't have charts, so that is still a point, which makes their EFB incomplete. And, well, many other developers have a tablet somewhere in their cockpit, which they call an EFB, while in reality it is only an enhanced option or flight plan viewer or something like that. But none of them actually provides the complete functionality that an electronic flight bag needs to actually have. Alright, and with all of that said, I want to finish up today's video. I am going to release a video for channel members very soon, where I'm going to show you what an actual real EFB looks like, what we have down there, and how we handle that. However, for now, thank you very much for your attention. I do surely hope that you have enjoyed this little insight into airline operations and what we do with an actual EFB. If you did, then do let me know in the comments below. I would like to thank you very much for watching, and if you want to support the channel, then be sure to like, comment and subscribe. And if you really like what I'm doing, I would appreciate either a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below, or to welcome you as a channel member, which is going to give you exclusive early access to new videos before they are released for everyone else. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again, hopefully very soon.